my Windows machine. So, all right, let's call this right here spot. Oh, I was wondering why there's like a spot on this. Maybe it's just my monitor. No, it was a spot. All right, so let's save this as background. You can save it as a PNG image because I think that's how it's a PNG image. And let's uh create a new folder under pictures. We're gonna call this the jetpack. Actually, yeah, no, let's not do that. Save this folder. Let's go ahead and just put that in the source folder, which is what we're working on. We have jetpack assets, and here's our images. Let's call this background. All right, our background. Uh, since let's make it a little bit different. Let's say we're our jetpack characters in space. So I think there's like a sprayer. Isn't there like an airbrush? And we could probably put a little bit of white throughout here. I don't know, just thinking out loud, maybe. Try that. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe like a really light gray. Maybe. Let's just start. I'm wasting too much time. So we have the background image. What else are we gonna need? Let's go look at the documentation real quick because I know we're gonna need a background, but I wonder if we can auto generate like where the bricks are going to be, right? Because ultimately we want to get to where we can create something like this. Because you can play this game, Jetpack DOS. And I believe it's right here. You can actually play the game. No. Watch all the ads, of course. Yeah, this is an old. I remember playing it back. That was like in middle school. You can see how old this game is by graphics. So it says where you play, press S. And you can see this is what the game is gonna look like. This is what I want to get to. So if we pause the game, kill it. Let's take a screenshot of what we're looking at as far as the. So it's gonna be art. This is what the game looks like, right? And then close that for now. We just want to get an idea of our game. Yeah. So we have that as. Go to the docs. What is phaser? Only working with phaser. An editor available, which if you're an experienced developer, you'll probably already have your own preferred editor. I do. We have Visual Studio Code as my preferred editor. This editor, okay. Let's go with text, sublime text. Okay. Project template. We have a React template. I wonder if it might be better just to standardize and use something like a React template. You could definitely give it a shot. So you have a framework template. You could use React and Vite or Phaser. So yeah, components example, phaser, graph. Anyway, go back to documentation. Making your first phaser game. Download starter guide, reload, create, and update. So create the background, logo, the ship. So on my level 1, I basically can just do the same thing that it does here. Going to, I'll start already the same, and then we're gonna load the image. So right now I only have my background. So I'm gonna preload the background, and this is gonna be called background PNG. So we commit. Name, background. So this is gonna load the background PNG. Can I put something next to it, I wonder? Like I generally can do that with Visual Studio Code, but this doesn't let me. Because I want to know if I could put like side by side the tabs. All right, anyway, so we load our image, our logo. What can we create for a logo? And then the sprite sheet, spaceship, PNG. I need to learn how to make sprite sheet too. I guess that's how it works, is using a sprite sheet. And then add title sprite. So how does this work? This background goes this dot add title sprite. Where is it getting title sprite? Is there such a thing as title sprite? Because you have a sprite sheet. This, but it creates a title sprite. It's a little confusing. I'm assuming this would be the sheet, like the page that it's on, and then to the background they're adding the title sprite, and they're passing some parameters, which the first parameter is going to be the X, the Y, width and height, and the texture. What does this do? So this is under create. Under create. Then how do I, on the main JS, I'm assuming that I started scene. Let's change it to level 1. I'm assuming that's how this works. So scene level 1. What happens when I run it? Error, level 1 is not defined. Why is it not defined? Because we have start, project config, text, start level. Create game ends with. Where is my? Where would I initialize that? There's something. Is there maybe something that I have to build in order for that to be established? We have scenes level 1 and start, and here we're saying start. Oh, because we don't have an initializer. What do we have under initial? We don't have an initializer here either. Export start level 1. Export class level 1 extends phaser.scene. Constructor super level 1 init. There's no init file. I mean init call. I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to watch something about this because I've never done this before. So because the initialization, it just says initialize scene, but I don't see an initialization on this yet. It works. And here we have it just bringing in and start. Little odd. Let's figure it out. Loading the background image. Both using and relying web technologies, and the game it creates are meant desktop, mobile browser apps capable of running web games. Discord, Snapchat, blah blah blah. Phaser is a 2-game development, 2D game development. Let's go with making your first game. Okay. Pick objects is how you configure the phaser game. There are lots of options can be placed in this object, and you expand the phaser knowledge, you'll encounter more of them. But in this tutorial, we're just going to set the renderer dimensions and default scene. This is a phaser game. Object is assigned to a local variable called game, and the configuration of object is passed to it. This starts the process of bringing phaser to life. Type property can be either phaser.canvas, loading assets. Figured that part out. In order to display when images we've loaded, place the following code inside the create function. You can find this on part 3 now. Values 400 and 300 are x and y coordinates of the image. Y 400 and 300 is phaser 3. All game objects are by default. Okay. Is it because I didn't put anything in? I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. We have actions. And I guess I'm trying to figure out how you work with scenes. Let's start there. Scenes. So in scenes, Phaser uses the concept of scenes to allow you to divide the game into logical sections. A scene can be as large or as small as you like. For to understand, you do not have one scene file. You can if you like, but it's not a requirement. You can have all your scenes in a file. You can have a file per scene. It's entirely up to you. Internally, there's a scene manager. This manager is what you interact with when you add or remove switch scenes. It's also responsible for updating and rendering the scene. You have full control over the order in which the scenes are rendered. Okay. Change the approach entirely. The first change was that states renamed to commonly. Global state manager is also replaced with a scene manager. The two terms are conceptually interchangeable, but the scene is the correct term. Want to know, how do you instantiate? Okay. We extend our phaser scene object and give it a unique key. In this case, my first scene. In the constructor, there are two methods: preload and create. First loads an image, and the second is you don't have A preload method. Only requirements to be a valid scene is to create method and its global entry points in phaser 3. Here's the exact same thing using ES5. Okay. Creating a scene. It also needs to be added to the game. You can do this when the game is created using game config like this. Okay, so there's a file called game configuration. This right here. So we have game, jetpack. But where do you add the scenes? So, because we have a variable called config, but I don't see that there. I think this is what it's talking about. So we can have the start scene and then we can have level 1. Maybe that's how you're supposed to do it. But how do you switch between scenes? Level 1 is not defined. That's the question. Like, what is... Scene has been passed via the scene property. This is that's the only place I saw a config. Main.js. Oh, that's why. We didn't import it. Import and a level 1 from scenes. Level, oh, what a dummy. No wonder it doesn't find it. Okay, so now we run it. We might even be able to just get rid of this. Okay. We can comment this out for now and see what it'll just run a black screen, but we won't get an error. Good, we don't have an error. So it'll just run a blank screen because that's all we've added so far is we've just added a background. We don't have anything when it comes to assets yet. We don't have anything. What's interesting to me is we need to figure out how to add like the bricks stuff. So because ultimately we want it to look like this. Better yet, to look like this. This is our first scene. So obviously the objective is the jetpack character goes through, gets all the little green emeralds, and then makes it ultimately to the door at the top right hand corner. So that's our goal. All right, so the next thing that we need to learn is textures, because there's a texture class. It's contains the data that Phaser requires in order to use a texture internally. For example, a sprite contains a reference to both texture and frame it is using. The underlying texture resides in the global texture manager. I feel like when I'm reading a manual and you're just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put it together. Let's just get to the main part that I need to figure this stuff out. I'm assuming that if we wanted to create like, obviously I'm gonna have to create these bricks and then this stone, because basically the way this game works is that the jetpack guy has like a way of breaking through barriers, and it has like, when you're playing the game, it has did I get rid of the game? It has like a power that the jetpack guy has to break through bricks, but it cannot break through stone. So obviously we need to create a way for it to... I need to create for a reusable service to set up how everything's gonna be laid out in the game. But I first have to figure out how do I set up different options for that. So we already figured out the scene part. So we know that scenes, you have to import them into the configuration and then you can leverage those. Now the next thing is figuring out what we show. Have actions, from a single time, finding multiple together, facing a set of sprites. What is meant by sprites is when you look at a sprite, it's basically a long, and I think of it like animation. So whenever people used to do animation back in the day, they would have like the concept of, you would have a book like this, and then as you would be going through it, like you would be able to see like the cartoon moving. So we need to figure out if there are sprites you can use. Wonder if there's any stuff out there. So we need what bridges? We need bricks. There, oh, background here too. Have objects. Wonder if we can find bricks. Bricks. Find it like we can do something like this. Object. That can't do much. Cannot render, for example, or be added to it. I wonder if can look at some examples on how to do this. There we go. So you can see that.
Welcome back, game makers. I am Super Tommy. I'm want to be adventurous or config application and need type npm.
This is all just setup stuff he's talking
make
about.
It 8,000, and then because we've now changed it to 8,000. Install phaser from npm. You will now, which is gonna take a
this is all configuration that was already done by Phaser. We don't need to know that.
So in the first folder, then we made a title screen.js file in Phaser like we did screen take and 250 in the middle of the screen. See in the help and title screen. Key type.
Question is,
these are all same thing. Import Phaser from Java the game scene. Importer it like this game.scene.add. We'll call it game scene. So that is running. So now what should we do next? Let's make a ball in our game scene. So this, delete that text, this dot add dot, add a circle. We'll do a circle, we'll also put it at 400.
so I guess there's options for that. Let's check it out. Let's try that. So in our code, let's go check out what we can do as far as adding stuff to our scene. Level 1 that we could use this dot add dot we can do that. So we can do an arc. Oh, can we do a square? Nope. Maybe it's a tile. Stone. Go. We can do a circle. What's a container? What does it expect? X and Y, and then it's X and Y are optional, and then number required and children is optional. Okay. So X, let's just say 20, and then children. An optional array of game objects to add to this container. But we don't want container. Dot grid do. Grid. So let's just width of the grid, say 100, height 100, cell width 1, so height 1, so color red. Guess we could like the color is a number. What are the, let's go look in phaser color numbers. Color. I don't understand. I don't understand why it's asking for a number for color. Third number. Like, what does it mean? Like, is it like, does it have predefined numbers? Does that make any sense? So here we go. RGB string to color. So I guess you have to create the color from an RGB string and then pass it as a color. I guess. Okay, let's see what
100, 250. Let's just try a radius of 10. Fill color, we want it white, which is that.
color in.
Gracias.
There's
So I guess the colors are set up in hex. That's what hex. Back. Back in the code. Try. What does that do? Colon at the end. Oh. I don't see it. Okay. Good to know. Let's see. Yeah. Don't know what I'm doing with this stuff, but continue try to figure it out.
our ball. So it doesn't do anything right now. There's no physics enabled. We can enable physics, so let's do that. Let's go back to main.js and we're gonna set in the config physics arcade and arcade. So
when he did the ball, what did he put again on the color? Oh, he didn't put any quotes. Let me go back to my code. Just put, didn't put it in quotes. That might be why. Not working. Put a 0, so 0, like so. That doesn't like it. Oh, because I don't have the parentheses. Now if I run it, nothing there. Yeah, I don't know what I am doing here. Try something else. This dot add. Graphics grid group. ISO box. No. Anyway, let's continue.
do that. Let's go back to main.js and we're going to set in the config physics. See if that is actually correct by going to the docs and looking, and then arcade, and then from arcade it's going to take this arcade world config. Here it is, X and Y. So circle this thing. Circle to the network either turn and debug to true, so that we can do bottom right or down. Going to remember all the various settings. Okay, we do it on the actual game object. It looks like it's not very exciting. And there we go. Now our ball is bouncing. That is, we have a bouncing paddles. Let's paddle on the left.
I'm more concerned with building the level right now than I am with actually building the physics of the game. There's gotta be something with like the, you know, the, like in my case, on my game, I have to be more concerned with building like the bricks, building all the artifacts within the level, and then worry about the physics, because the physics come into play later when you're building the main character. And right now I'm more concerned with just building the scene.
Hello there, chaps. Ready to dip your toes into some game? Absolute beginner to a somewhat. There's no rush at all. Beforehand, we do need pop into resources and select making your first games, and then just follow this to. So if you want to actually go into a bit more detail in there, feel free to look at that as well. Right, let's crack on and let's have a little go at making your first game. Click new. Now let's use.
Yeah, we already did all
Every
this.
change, press Ctrl and S to save the project or commit file, which can src folder, and click game.js. Let's remove all of the snake code so it looks just like this. Now let's put the assets into the game. The easiest way to do this in the Phaser launcher is to drag and drop all of the files into the assets folder. Now let's sort out the assets in the preloader.js file. We need to go to the preload function. We're going to remove this and then put our code into it. Now let's start with an image. We're going to go to the game.js file and we're then going to put this line of code in. If you have done this correctly, you should get a sky background when you press the play button. So now we're going to look to build our world. We're going to add some platforms, something for your person to jump on, and for the other assets to interact with. So to get our platforms, you need to go to the game.js file and go to create, and you're going to put in these 6 lines of code. After saving, when you press play, this is what you should see. So now we need someone who's going to run around and .js file and go to create, and you're going to
you created using a platform. Okay, and then I wonder what platform does. Let's go look and see what platform does. So in here, in the create, let's add is dot platform. There is no platform. Doing this in the game.js. I'm in level 1.js. Just game for playloader.js. There is no platform. They're replaced by something else. Platform, load, create platforms. Oh, you have to create platform. So this platform equals dot physics dot add static. Okay. And now this dot platform dot then where is it getting ground from? Because I don't see anything in this static that says ground. But anyway, let's try this. 600, 400, ground. Wonder. Nothing. How do you add? There's no add method set to physics. And I think I know why. I think you need to add physics like the other guy was doing. How do you add physics to the game? I believe that is in the configuration right here. Physics. See that? I didn't add physics. That's why I'm getting an error. So let's go add physics too. So on the config, which was under main, we have background color, and then we can add physics. Sorry, might be better if I spell correctly. The comma after. Under physics, we're going to use alt arcade. We're going to build the arcade object. Debug. I'm going to set that to true because we're developing right now. Cavity. 500. Save that. This ground. DevTools right next to it. What are we looking at here? Let's game container. Oh, go back to the. Let's add what he added, just for argument's sake.
Now you should get some
Okay.
play for you. So now you need to go of code.
All right. So hold down. You can create copies using Shift Alt down. Creates copies. 50. 250, 750, 20, The only thing that we're forgetting is this dot platform. Actually rename this platforms, 'cause that's the way he had it. Platforms. And if you're wondering what I pressed, you can select a key, a word, and then press Control D on your editor, and it'll basically select all the same value, and then you can just modify it. This platforms dot create 400 568 ground. Let's scale. Let's scale to dot fresh body. That's not make any sense. Oh, make any sense because I was supposed to put is that a valid text? I don't know, like it's kind of weird because it doesn't have any IntelliSense. Gets me a little nervous when I see stuff like that. It looks like platforms is just creating some random stuff. Like it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 of the platforms.
After saving, when you press play, this is what you should see. So now we need someone who's
Sorry, I know you can't see it.
going to run a jump on and to look to build our the game.js file, and we're then going to put this line of code in. If you have done this correctly, you should get a sky background when you press the play button. So now we're going to look to build our world. We're going to add some platforms, something for your person to jump on, and for the other assets to interact with. So to get our platforms, you need to go to the game.js file and go to create, and you're going to put in these 6 lines of code. After saving, when you press play, this is what you should see. So now we need someone who's going to run around and collect things and jump out of the way of stuff. Luckily for you, you have me. I'm actually inside the assets folder, and we're going to use me in the actual game. To add me to your game, you need to go to the SRC folder. Now we need to add the game objects. By clicking this middle button, you can add a folder. Name the folder game objects, and by clicking this button on the left, you can add a file and call the file player.js. Now let's give me something to do. Click on player.js and put in the following code. Now let's address the player sprite. To do that, we're going to change the constructor method to the following code. After saving that, we're going to go to game.js and change the code over here as well. Now save and let's see if it works. So let's add some movement. Go to the player.js file, and now we'll add impromptu animation. We also want to make it so that I can stand on the platform, because it's not really any point of having a platform if I can't do platform things. So let's go to game.js and put in this line of code. Now when you press play, I should comfortably stand on the platform. So everything kind of works, except I'm not really moving, so let's get some movement going. In game.js, you need to add the this.cursors code. Then we'll go down to update and add this code here. Now go back to the player.js file and add these lines of code. When you save this, you should now be able to move me around. Now it's time to give me a purpose. So we're going to add some stars in for me to collect. So open up the game.js file. Then you'll add this line of code. We're also going to go down to update and add this line of code. Save that. And now when you press play, you should see some stars drop in. So what's the point of having these stars here if we can't get any points? So let's make a scoring system. You're going to add a score variable to keep track of the score, and a score text variable that will display the score in the top left-hand corner. In the game.js file, you're going to add these lines of code to the collect star function, which will allow the score to be displayed. So at this point, you basically have a game. We have a scoring system, something to collect, So let's make it a little bit harder. Let's add a bomb. So in the game.js file, let's go to create. Then let's add these lines of code. We also want to make a hit bomb function so that when you hit the bomb, something will happen. If you have put in all the code correctly, it should look like this. And now we need a way to release the bomb. So beneath the hit bomb function, we're going to add the release bomb function. Alongside, we will need to add some small additions to the collect star function as well. Now save the game and click play. Once you collect all the stars, it should release a little bomb from the top. And when you hit the bomb, it should stop the game. This tutorial is for absolute beginners looking to get into JavaScript 2D game work with Phaser. There's so many more tutorials we have on our website. We have an amazing Discord full of...
Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But, I mean, the only thing that confuses me is the fact that it doesn't... I don't know where it's getting ground from. So, I don't know if there's a way that we can create those properties ourselves. You know, it just doesn't. Let's go look at Phaser ground platform. A Phaser ground platform, creating a static or dynamic surface, set of physics. Yep, we already did that. Use physics.add image or that for simple platforms. For complex levels, use tile maps. Map that create dynamic layer and set collisions in tile ID. Set immovable true, stops if being affected by collisions, prevents it falling when jumped on. Matter physics, static true when creating an object platform. Add gravity. Collision detected. Okay. So I see ground, set immovable. Ground. Try this. I like platforms like create. It's a little bit odd that it doesn't say for me to put this on it, so I'm thinking it's gonna fail. Go to console. Yeah, see, problem. It's so sad that sometimes documentation doesn't tell you. Back what I said. But what if? Oh, platforms. Back to the document. Platform create. Body. Oh, we imported a ground image. So now we have to import a ground image. How did they import the ground image? So that I didn't add. Let's find one. Find bricks. So let's look for bricks. Texture. Read it. Animate. Copy. Press. Okay. Save image as. Let's call this brick photo. And let's put this in our source folder where we would work on. Source tag. Okay. Now instead of ground, let's use, probably not gonna work. Oh, it's because WebGL, the image is WebGL. So look and see. Image as. Oh, there's a egg. I don't know why it's saying WebGL was. Let's edit it with Paint. We open with save as image. This is how you convert it. So here we're gonna go to assets and call it photo PNG. Cancel that, and now we can go back to the. Now we have brick photo PNG. Get rid of the other brick photo. Go back to software. Instant. Oh. Am I missing something? Maybe I need to load it prior. Probably I need to load it. This dot load image. And let's call this brick photo. And this is gonna be in the assets folder. Brick photo dot png. We pull in at the end. Now let's try it. Oh wow. That's a little too oversized. Let's make the bricks smaller. So we go here, open, we go to our assets folder, and we can actually resize this by going to this. Let's go to pixel, make it 12 by 12, 12 pixels. Really save that. Happens. Okay, that looks a little bit better. What does that really do though? That's what's a little confusing. Because let's go back to create. So this dot platforms dot create. The create method has an X and a Y. For Boolean. When I have X and a Y and then what? X and a Y. Frame and then number, or it could be a string or a number. Visible and active. So visible can be a Boolean, active is a Boolean. Those are both optional. I'm assuming if programmatically you wanted things to appear and disappear, that's how you would do so. You would probably have something that triggers this visibility function to off or on. What else? What else are we missing? So we have these. How do I make it where we see like the length of it? This is background, right? Oh, that's just for the whole background. But I'm trying to figure out, how do you multiples of these? How do you make basically a platform? It doesn't quite add up for me. Let's go back to that YouTube video because maybe I missed something when it came to where he was adding the images.
We're
maybe.
also going. Now make a folder and then a project name and then click create. So we're going to take the snake game and we're going to rearrange it to work for our jump pattern. Go to project config and change the width to 800 and the height to 600. After every change, press Ctrl and S to save the project, or Command S if you're on a MacBook. We're also going to make this change in the main.js file, which can be found by pressing the src folder and change width to 800 and height to 600. Now let's prepare the game scene. Open the game scene, which can be found in the src folder, and click game.js. Let's remove all of the snake code so it looks just like this. Now let's put the assets into the game. The easiest way to do this in the Phaser launcher is to drag and drop all of.
Look at that platform. So when I look at that image, zoom in, but it looks like the platform is like actually a wider image. So maybe we need to go in and change that to be similar. So let's go and change this background for this bricks image. Let's zoom in first of all. Zoom in. Okay. Happens if there we go, like that. And then we can just move this over. I think we could do, because if you remember Jetpack, it looks more like this. We need to find, it'd be cool if we could take this brick and make it into here. I wonder if I can do that. Let's edit this in Paint as well. And then let's take one of these. Actually, as a matter of fact, let's do this. Copy this. Let's copy the brick. No, not. We want to do this. Copy this. Let me zoom in first. This is a very old game, so I'm not thinking that they're gonna come after me. Again, this is just for learning purposes, so if they come after me, well, I'll just tell them I'm sorry. I was just trying to learn to develop an old game of that I remember as a kid, and I wanted to make it again happen. Out. Anyway, let's go in here. Here's our image. So it's 144 by 24 pixels. Let's save that. And let's see what happens when we run it with this. Oh, it automatically changed it. I didn't even have to reload the game. Now the biggest thing is, obviously this one is different. Let's go back. I think the reason being is because we're putting this too high up. I wish that it had, in the game viewer, I wish that it had like a way that you could hover over like the area and that it would show you what X and Y coordinate you're at with your cursor. It doesn't have that. You know, like it tells you the pixels that it is, but it doesn't show you, like there's gotta be, like if I wanted, there's gotta be a way for me to obtain the length and width. So say for instance, if I have the canvas set to 1,000 across, I should be able to get the canvas length and divide and get the, you know, the bottom, and then put it at the very bottom left hand corner, start, and go all the way to the bottom right hand corner. That way I have the bottom platform. What I'm talking about is you know, this platform that we have here. If I was to zoom out, talking about technically here, like for instance, I could say, okay, this is 100% the length of the canvas. So I need to be able to get the length of the canvas so that then I can proportionately get the information that I want, where I want to place my artifacts. So let's find out how we can get the canvas. There's got to be a way. So let's go into the documents. Phaser, get canvas size. So here we go. Canvas width, this. So we can use this. It's the and this would be where. Let's try to use it here. So we have the canvas width and the canvas height. And let's just say that we want to have because right now when we look at the game, we have 3 of them that are the same. 1, 2, 3. We have 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 of them are the same. One of them is different because we set the scale to 2. And then we put 400. What is? We know that the first property that you pass into create is the X. So what if I put 0 and 0? That's probably going to put it, yep, top right hand corner. If I change this back, it went from the top to down here. Oh, I didn't put, is refresh, I thought refresh body was supposed to have like a function. Okay, so we have to figure out a way to put this down here at the bottom. So if we have canvas dot width, canvas dot height. So we could technically say canvas height minus 40. That. Let's just say landing. How do I this dot? How do you create like it's generally, do you have to add this every time that you want to create a variable? Basically what I'm trying to get at is obviously canvas height minus 40. Actually, I think I'm putting this in the wrong place because we want to change the Y, like where it is on the up and down axis. So the Y is the second number. So that would be canvas height minus 40. Okay, perfect. You see how I took the height of the canvas and I just said, take it down to the bottom. So I don't even really need to have the minus 40 because that's bringing it up. Well, maybe I do, because now that I think about it, I want to leave a little space at the bottom to do the fuel, the lives, and the score at the very bottom. So maybe we do need 40 at the bottom so that it could be, you know, so that it can give me enough space down here at the You know, maybe I should double that. Let's get 8. Because I think that what we could do is we could down here put that. Now, 8. So what happens if I put 0 here? That puts it all the way to the top. I wonder if I could do a loop. Can you just use loops? Let's see. 4. Const x equals 0. No. Let's see how you use maybe a for loops. Either for loop. What I'm basically trying to do is I'm going to take that bottom and I'm going to replicate it. I'm going to use a loop to create several iterations so that they're right next to each other. So for looping functions, apparently we can just do this. So let's use a standard loop. Okay. And then here in my ellipsis where we create, gonna add our okay, let's see. We're gonna have to do a little math. So this is just so that we can create the bottom. And so let's say we want to create the bottom, but let's go look at our image. Where did I put the image at? Here's my, here we go, break photo. So let's just say the platform right now is 1280. Okay? So 1280 is the whole strip across the bottom. That's the whole strip across the bottom. Is 1280. And let's just say that our bricks, we're going to change our image for bricks to just be 20. Let's do our bricks to be 20 by 20, 24 by 24. I would really prefer to make it 20 by 20. I wonder if I could get away with that. Perfect. That's 20. Now let's bring this over this way. 20. Okay. And then we're gonna make it to where we need to take the edge on the side and bring it. It'll make sense once I do it. I'm using basic stuff because that way anybody can do this. Like I just have to have paint on your computer and you're fine. So I paste it and then I'm going to flip it horizontally and then move it all the way. And perfect. So there's my 20 by 20 pixel brick. Okay. So now that I have my brick photo, this is obviously going to change my game. So if we go to the game, you can see now it's just a little square. And so in our loop, we're going to find out how many times we have to divide the canvas, because I can change the canvas at any time. If I want to make it later 800 by 800, I can do that. But I don't want to be stuck to where I have to update that everywhere in the program. So we need to figure out mathematically how we're going to make that little brick go all the way across the bottom of the screen. And so in order to find out how many times that little brick is going to have to be laid out, is we're going to have to figure out how many times 1280 is divisible by 20, because that's our pixels across the bottom. So we're going to create a variable that is called let, we use, no, let's call let number of bricks, let's just call it number across bottom. It's going to equal the canvas dot width divided by 20. That's the number of times that we are going to be able to take the very, very bottom of the canvas, and how many times the bricks are going to be laid out. So that we're going to be creating a brick for the number of items across the bottom. So instead of enemies.length, which isn't even instantiated, let's say number of, as long as you are still below the number of bricks across the bottom, I want you to recreate and add one again. Okay, so now we can say this right here and move it into our loop. But the only thing that is going to change is the X, right? So every time we're going to start, what are we going to call this variable? X grid, maybe. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just call it X grid. And X, we're going to use this as the X grid. Okay. So the very first time is going to put it at grid 0. But every time after it runs, we're going to add. We're going to take X grid equals X grid plus 20, because remember our brick is 20 by 20. So we're essentially saying we're going to loop through it. We're going to go over and over and over again and create a block for every section. And there you go. Wow, that's how cool this is. I like it. Does that make sense? Like, we are just taking, we are setting it up to where we can dynamically build these things, and we don't have to constantly be, if I was to change my canvas to 800 later, I don't have to worry about, oh shoot, I gotta go in there and change this because I wrote it in statically. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is, because now we have our entire bottom part of the game. Remember, we're trying to build a game. We're not copying the game, because then they'll probably come after me. But we're emulating. We're basically creating something, you know, similar to it. The next thing we have to do is work on creating the ladders. We have to create the ladders. We have to create these here. So let's do that. That is, put a semicolon there. Oh, and it was 20, not. Why is my not working? Keyboard's not working, all of this. Okay, so I can do that, but I can't press 0. There we go. Number lock. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so we've created the bottom part. I think that we can use, now that we know how to create the scenarios, we have to create a way of, because we don't want to sit here and every single time we want to create a new level, we don't, these are, for lack of a better way of putting this, is this kind of static, right? And so it essentially we want to be able to create something that will self-generate it, like new, like say for instance, if I make a 10 level game, players are gonna probably go within the first few minutes. If I don't make it really difficult, they're gonna get within the first, few minutes. They're gonna get everything right away. Um, so, and then I don't know about this set skill 2. What does refresh body do? I always want to understand why things work. Maybe that's why, you watch all those videos about when people learn to code, what they could do different. One of the things that I feel that I could do different is not ask why so much, but it's very hard for me to do that. Because I think that whenever you're doing any kind of thing in life, you always want to know why. Even as kids, try to talk to a kid and they're always going to be like, but why? But why? Like, or just annoy you with why? And that is not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing to do, to understand why things are happening the way they're happening. So it's always good to understand your why. And I want to understand what I'm assuming set skill 2 means that it's duplicating, right? And then refresh body. I'm not understanding what refresh body does on platform. Platform, I want to know what that does. So refresh body on physics platform does what? Forces it manually updates the visual representation of physics body like a rigid or static body and the same to match its actual physical properties and position. So I'm assuming that the physics engine basically takes the sizing of your object. In my case, the object is 24 or 20 by 20. So the little image that we created for the bricks was an image of 20 by 20. So the physics engine takes that into consideration when it determines how the fixes are going to apply to it. And so that's, I guess, what it means by refresh body. It updates not only the visual representation, but the physics of it as well. So, generate bodies on the class. I just try to understand, as I was explaining to you, whenever you're learning to code, anytime that you see parentheses, anytime you see a parentheses, that's a method. It's doing something. If I was building a game, which again, I'm completely new to this. I'm just a developer that develops enterprise applications. This is my very first time delving into gaming. But programming is relatively the same across multiple languages. And so that's why I said that as I'm learning, I want to take this perspective with you, the viewer, in that I am learning something completely new. This is not something that I do day in and day out, but I just thought, let's do something fun. And at the same time, I can put myself in a person's shoes that's barely learning how to program. And instead of telling you to read and watch tutorials, the best way that you can learn to program is by working on a project. Working on a project is going to be the way that you want to learn. There's a lot of programs out there or companies out there that'll try to sell you a product to get you to learn by just generating some random code, like pre-established code mini tutorials. And unfortunately, that is not the most optimal way of learning. So if I could recommend to you how to learn development, this would be how. Get something that you're passionate about. Maybe you want to, like me, I'm creating a retro game from when I was a kid. uh, and I want to basically bring it back to life and build it in a modern framework. So I'm using this phaser programming, which is, I know JavaScript and it's based on JavaScript. And so I can tell you that since I'm learning this, I'm having the same perspective that you do. And a lot of the times there is this cartoon that I watched with my kid a long time ago. It was called, um if I can find it. Uh yeah, this part right here. I'm gonna play it for you. Hopefully I don't get beat up by it by the uh by the copyright gods. But this is the part that I'm talking about. Let me see if you can. Hold on, I think I have my fireplace going, so you're hearing that. Let me pause. Let me take that audio out. So a lot of the times when you're watching a tutorial, so he was literally just telling them, put a twig in the hole, but he used all this other language to just essentially say, put a twig in the hole. And so when you're learning programming, you're going to find the same thing. You're going to have people talk about objects, variables, um, methods, properties, arrays, strings. And a lot of the times that's confusing. That's going to confuse you. That's going to be like, what in the world are they trying to teach me? And I want to simplify it just like he did. Like when he did like, huh? Like, what do you want me to do? He's like, just stick a twig in the hole. That's the same thing that I want you to take from this. Is I want you to learn with me and then understand it in layman's terms. And a lot of the times you know, it becomes very confusing to try to learn. So anyway, hopefully you heard that part. Let me turn that down a little. All right. So anyway, like I was saying, let's continue with what we were working on. So go back to the code. Okay. So back in the code, we have set scale to, I don't really want to do that. Get rid of that. And let's create a different platform for the bottom of the game, because I want it to look like this at the bottom of the game. So it looks like a silverish color, right? So let's take this same one and let's save it as PNG image. We're gonna call it metallic. Metallic. And so that metallic color is basically gonna take this light gray color and we're just gonna fill it in with that light gray color. That. Okay? And so this is gonna be called metallic. I wonder if I can take this. Like that. We can actually use this dropper and fill it in. There we go. This is going to be the bottom part of our video game. So we're going to use that metallic color. And let's go back to our, so here we have metallic PNG. So this got load image. And we're going to call this metallic base. and it's going to be found in assets. It's called metallic. At the end, we have a one. And instead of brick photo, we're going to use metallic base. Now we go back to the, where's my, right here. Kind of see, ooh, that looks horrible. That looks bad. Oh, because I have it set scale 2. Okay. We're just going to have refresh bot. I still don't like the way that looks. Why does it have like those little, is that something normal that it does with images? Like it's adding like a blue border around the edges. Is there a way to remove that? Remove border from image, import phaser. Remove the border. So, that's why. So if we have debug on, so if we go back to main.js and we have debug to true, we got to change this to false. Then, no, that's still not, that's still showing it. Still showing it, so I don't understand. So physics. For matter physics in a scene. Try this maybe. I don't understand how this would be any different, but give it a shot. So it's out of the level. Where would that be? Placed under create. You're under create. See, that didn't, now it doesn't show anything. Eight. Anyway, I'm assuming that that's something that just happens while we're in development, so we're gonna leave it as is. I'm assuming that whenever we're no longer in development, then we won't need those things anymore. All right, let's move on to the next thing. The next thing would be the ladders. So in the ladder, we can do we have to do something like this. So we're gonna have to have probably, oops, that close this snipping tool version. Go here to paint. Is this? Go into this screen. So we need to have where let's zoom in. We need this next section. So we're gonna need go from here. The reality is that this is, let's copy this. Let's go back to our game. To our, actually, yeah, to this. We're gonna call this, gonna save it as a PNG, and we're gonna call this as ladder rectangle. Ladder rectangle. I paste it in here. And see if we can copy it. I paste it in there. Then time it down like that. And need to resize it to be pixels 20. All of it right now is 20 by 20. Need to reduce the size to be 20. Like that. Okay, so that makes it 20. Minimize this to 20. Perfect. Now we're gonna work a little bit of fixing. So we're gonna change and move this all the way to the bottom. Okay. All right. There at the bottom. Then we're going to move. We're gonna get the dropper, get this color, and we're gonna fill in this. Okay. So now to make this, I'm making a 20 by 20 ladder. Then I'm gonna basically reuse to build the ladder portions of the game. So if we go back to the game, I'm basically building this ladder part in the game. And so we need to move this part more towards edge, more or less of it. That's the center. Let's take this part right here. We're gonna make it there. Add it here. I paste it again. I'm wondering. That looks a little skewed, obviously. I think I need to move this up a little bit. Like right there. And fill it in gray. And then add this dark color again. Like that. I think that looks good. I think that's gonna work for our ladder part. Now we need to add that as ladder, and then we need to add a ladder top and ladder bottom. So the ladder top going to be, because obviously look, if you look at the ladder, you can see. I wonder if there's a way to only show a portion of the pixel of the image. Whenever you're adding a piece, let me see. Phaser, is there a way to load partial image? For instance, ladder, but only show part of it. I'm gonna have to use basically what I'm asking is there, you know, because in programming you can do like whenever you're dealing with SVG files, you can tell it like what region of the SVG file to show. So in our case, in this PNG file, when I'm working on the ladders, I wonder if I have to create the ladder top portion or the bottom portion, um, in order to display only the part of the rings that are going up and down. Because in the game, you can very clearly see that this is just a partial space and then a partial space at the top. So we need to be able to create the ladder to be able to do that same exact thing in the game that we're building. So that's why I was asking if there's a way that I can do that. And let me go to, I don't know if I can install Claude on here. I have a Claude subscription. I can use Claude AI to help us learn this development. Download it. Bear with me a moment. I'm gonna install this so that we can see if instead of using Google, we can get a little bit more definitive answers that we don't generally get with a browser. So bear with me a moment while I log. Um, what? I messed up on my email. Bear with me a moment. I'm sorry. All right, let me verify code. Because it says they're having issues with sending well, it looks like it's from Anthropic, so let me Anthropic. Um, there's nothing yet. Might not be able to use that. Okay, no worries. That's not. I wonder if I could just use the free version of Claude for now. I'm gonna try Claude. Maybe this doesn't limit me too much. Coding and develop. Right. I'm on topic. All right. In Phaser IO, can I load an image similar to how I can load SVG, only load a portion of it? for example, um, load a percentage of the have a ladder image, and I want only load portion of. There a method by which to do this? Needs keep response size and uh ask clarifying question. Okay, what this does is you can selectively load only part of an image disk. Right texture ladder this dot add image by set crop the top 50%. So I guess you can do you can load an image. So if we go back to the code, where's the code? Right here in the load image portion. Let's go back to the I wonder if you can do, let's just call this dot load. Let's call this ladder. And it's gonna be coming from the assets. Colon. Then we can, what are the properties after? Is it, according to this, we can add a set crop. There is wonder if this is true. Let's add this out of curiosity. Let's put it somewhere down here. And it's called ladder. We have ladder, put it here. Let's see what this does. We go back to our game viewer. Broken. Ladder, this dot add. Let me see if that's even a test equals this dot add. That even a this dot, yep, that is a method. There even an image in here? Yep, image is a method. Oh, I put X and Y is not, it needs to be a number. So let's just say 50 and 50. Let's see what that does. Oh, look at that. It does do it. So there's a way that you can load pieces of a ladder. Very cool. So now that we know that we can add pieces of a ladder, but how can I incorporate physics into an image? Because essentially I'm going to have my character climb up the ladder, right? So if I'm going to be doing this part and it's showing 50%, let's put a comment here and says add partial ladder. Sorry, ladder 50%. That way we know what this is. I wonder if you can do the same thing with platform. I'm curious about that. Let's say this dot platforms dot create. Let's say 200 100 ladder. Then let's see. That actually works. But now let's see, how can I combine the physics property into a ladder set of images. For some context, I have currently loop that creates a platform across bottom of my game. Oh, it's 1C. How do I add a ladder going up and make it so once the game character, it recognizes it as climbable area. Recognizes it, and I'm gonna give it a bit more context than what I have there because I need to give this whole piece of the, that way it knows what I'm talking about. Don't give me too much detail on the loop part. I just want to know how to load the ladder image, which is the same as the bricks, or not. Not gonna understand what I mean by bricks. Same as the metallic base, which is in 20 by 20. Ask any clarifying question. The reason I'm asking it not to go into too much detail is because I don't want to. I'm on free. I don't want to run out of responses, so that's why I'm asking for it to not be as detailed and give me a bunch of code and stuff. Do you want the ladder to be a sensor overlap zone? A player passes through it, but can pressing up and down. Yes, that's exactly what I want. A sensor. Climbing mechanics. Should the player auto stick to ladder when overlapping? Only climb when pressing up and down while on the ladder. Only climb when. Okay, and then how tall should the ladder be? So let's say, if we're using 20 by 20, let's make the ladder be on, I would put it 20 and 200, that's 5. And put 10 of the little ladders. Let's make it 200. Ladder dimensions. Ladder dimensions is 200 pixels. I don't know how to spell it. Essence. 10 iteration of the 20 by 20 ladder. Right. Create a ladder, so add static group, creates a ladder group like a platform. That ladder equal 100, canvas height minus 80 minus start above the platform, okay. Yeah. So let's find out if this code will work. So essentially, let's get rid of this, get rid of that. Because we just want to, I just want to keep that so that I know what I've done in the past. Now let's add this. Tap that over. Let's see how this loads. It looks, oh, because ladder is lowercase. This gotta use this. Cool. You can see I've already built a ladder going up using my sprite. That is very cool. All right, so you can kind of see the dynamics. Now, I did see that ladder. We can comment this out because we already have that here. Let's get rid of that. Have our platform. These are just some random platforms. We have a ladder. And then we have the creation of the ladder. Oh, this is just to check for collisions. Okay. So, this we don't need right now. Just need the ladder going up. And I actually think I should change my platform, my game, because you can tell my images are so small, and the reason being is because my canvas is just really like a really big canvas that I'm working on, and so maybe we need to consider changing the canvas to, what did that guy have it set up to on the video we were watching? We're watching a video where had
Hello there, chaps. Ready
this part right here. What size has
to dip your toes into something or just
canvas?
absolute beginner to a you needed? There's no rush at all. Beforehand, we do need you to get the phaser launch, making your first use, and then first game in there. So if you want, we'll go making your first game, shall we? So firstly, let's open the phaser launcher, then go to the folder to rearrange it to 600. After every change, press Control and S to save.
So 800 by 600. Let's change it to 800 by 600. Gonna change our go back to phaser. So 800 by 600. 800 by 6. That. Load our game. That looks better. How do I keep on getting this message? Callback software WebG. I don't have WebG. Or warning rather. Maybe there's something that I have. But it looks like it's just it's just a generic warning from Chrome. Okay, that's just a generic message. Chrome is not something that is because of my game. The only issue that I see is that if the ladder, it needs to be a little bit different because you can see where on certain parts it's overlapping. So in order to fix that, we need to change it to where this image is not like this. This image needs to be, first of all, we need to figure out I guess I'm at 100% already. That's so I need to take the length from the edge. How many pixels? Is there a way I can measure? I'm just trying to figure out. I wonder if I can do this. How about like that? And it looks like it's about halfway. Okay. Click away. Okay, good. Now, got it again. This part. Halfway. Save it. Now, we go back to the. That looks a lot better. What I did was I basically cut that piece to only be half the size, because if you remember, my ladder was looking kind of weird with the way it looked. Anyway, that being said, now we need to figure out how we build. Again, we're going back to the game. We need to figure out how we build bricks to the sides of the ladder, because we need to have, if I zoom in, need to have a ladder, and then I need to have like some bricks sides of it. So let's work on that next. So let's go into our code editor, level 1. And now we have to figure out the height of the ladder, which we can change whenever we want. Let's make it half of what it is. So 50. Where's our game? Guess it dropped. Canvas height. Ladder Y. Oh, that just shifts it over to the sides. Start above the platform. Ladder X 50. So that just shifts it left and right. And then we want to do 5 iteration. So that makes it a lot shorter. So now we know that we're 5 iterations up. Okay. So how do we figure that out? Well, we need to create a variable that allows us to know how high up we are from how high up we're going with the ladder itself. So, and we want to remove. So let's first create the variable. So the variable is going to be how many ladders do we, so we're going to call it number of ladder. They're called rings, right? Whenever you do ladders. So let number of rings equal 5. And then we're going to parameterize this. So number of rings. Okay. That doesn't change anything in the game. It's still going to be the same. That just allows us to dynamically change this number anytime we want. And we can change the height of our ladder there. Okay. But right now we just have it set to 5. So that builds our ladder. So now we know that 5 is going to be, because we're doing 5 and the ladders are 20 pixels each. So we need, so 5 times 20 is 100. And it looks like in level 1, our bricks, it's about 3 times. So it'd be about 60 pixels up is going to be our first set of ladders. Okay. And I don't know if we can dynamically change this because we're going to have 2 ladders. Okay, we want to have 2 ladders. One at the very beginning, slightly indented, and then one at the end. I'm just trying to think of dynamics. Like, how do we keep the game from not being static, from not always looking the same? Right? We want the game to have some dynamics around development of game levels, because we would like to have it infinite levels. We would like to have 1,000 levels. I mean, if you're really good, obviously the physics and stuff are going to change because you want to make the game more difficult as the user proceeds through each and every level. Regarding auto generation for levels, what is the best approach to dynamic level generation? If we can get the canvas height and width, it would be ideal if we can come up with an algorithm to an algorithm is just a calculation. Think of it as a formula. Like whenever you learned how to find the area of a triangle, or like when you found that you were learning to find a parameter of things, you know, length plus width is your algorithm, your calculation. So I'm trying to find out what the best practice is for developing a game to have it to where the game dynamically creates levels. Or I could be way off. It could be one of those scenarios where, you know, it's not a feasible thing. Maybe you do have to go and create all 100 levels, which is very, very painful, in my humble opinion, to have to go and create um every level by hand that the user has to, because right now, I mean, you're seeing what it takes to just create the levels. We should be able to dynamically say, this is what I want the physics around each individual area. Like for instance, ladders, we want them to be overlapped, and then when the user presses up, the little character, the video game, it starts climbing up the ladder. For bricks, we want to set it up to where if the brick has this conveyor belt, so to speak, on top, the character cannot destroy them. We also want to be able to have stone, so like these pieces that are made of stone or ice on top of the bricks, those cannot be broken. So those are all rules that we'll have to build. But what I'm getting at is there should be a way that we can build a scenario where these levels dynamically can create themselves. Maybe we just want to increase the amount of enemies in it. Maybe we want to increase the amount of ladders on it. Maybe we want to increase the amount of stone on it. Because having more stone means you cannot erase or break the brick. And essentially it traps you, right? Because if you are, think of it like Pac-Man. When you are playing Pac-Man and the ghost is coming after you, if you didn't have an opening to where to go through and you have ghosts on either side, you're dead. There's no way out. So that we want to generate these levels of complexity as we build the game up, but you don't want to have to sit here and have to develop every level manually. But of course, unfortunately, if the dynamics of the game do not permit for you to be able to do that, then I want to find out. Because if we can create a reusable service that allows us to dynamically create our video game levels, the more better for it that we are, right? So let's see if that's feasible. So we can come up with algorithms to auto generate the levels in the game. For instance, we already have a ladder and the bricks. How, or is there a best practice for this? Or is it something that Phaser IO does not support? Please ask me clarifying questions. I always put this because there's things that you forget. There's things that you might forget when asking a question, and it's gonna think of other things that you may have not have thought of. So that's why I ask for it to ask me any clarifying questions, because sometimes I may not get right. I may be way off base. Keep answer nice. Word. Cool. So you can do level style random procedural, like, okay. So you can build constraints. So you can divide canvas into grid cells, assigning types, platform, ladder, empty, layer based, generate horizontal platforms, layers, and intervals, add ladders between them, define reusable chunks, and stick them together. Generate platforms at vertical intervals. Cool. So you can do that. You can create generics around the way that you can build your game. So it's basically saying you can build random, procedural, structure, repeatable levels. Simple platforms plus ladders or more complex enemies. So obviously we're going to add complexity because we're going to add enemies, hazards, and obviously collectibles, which is our emeralds. So we'll have to add that as well. And then any constraints, example, reachable minimal platform spacing, ladder every X distance. What that means is that if you remember, I think it's called Donkey Kong retro game where you were playing with Mario and you had to go through like this one right here. You guys remember? You remember this game? So where it's kind of similar to that a little bit, right? Like, and I'm obviously we can generate these random areas and then we can connect them with ladders. So we essentially want to do the same thing. And we want to create the different platforms going across and then the amount of ladders that we want to generate per. And obviously we probably want to add more ladders the more complex the games get. And then for the boss levels, like the really hard levels, I think those would probably be ideal that we create manually, because those, we want to generate some kind of really, really hard part to the game to make it fun. I don't know about you, but I don't like games when they're too easy to beat. But anyway, let's see what we can do. Before I can get AI has already answered my question. The answer to my question is, can I make a level and generate it automatically for the player when they're playing a game? And the answer is yes. But in order for me to do that, I first have to create one level. So I'm going to create one level from scratch. And the reason for that is because I need to be able to give AI a metric by which to generate or help me rather generate an auto generation of this level. If I try to tell it, oh, just help me create these generic levels, it's not gonna know what I'm talking about. It's not gonna get an understanding. But if I can create the first level and incorporate a lot of the things that I want into it, then I can thereafter generate the complexities around the auto generation of the levels. So let's start by creating the first level statically, right? And then once we have our static level generated, then we can move on to generate our next level of the game. Okay, so now we know that we want to have the ladder. The number of rings is 5. And say we want to create now some bricks to the sides of the ladder. So we know that we want to create we want to go to we want the bricks, one set of bricks. Let's go back to the image. We want one set of bricks to be on the 4th, 5th of the ladder. Bear with me. So let's just pretend this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? If we break down the ladder into 5 pieces, which we technically do because our ladder is 20 by 20, and we have 5 of them, making it 100. So essentially, by telling it I want it the brick to be at the 4/5, that would mean that only 4 of the ladder rings are going to be available, and then I should have a brick right before the last one, on the 4th one. So X is going to be, Y is going to be at the 3rd one. So we're going to take the number of rings and we're going to dynamically create a partition, which is we want it to be at 4 or 3 out of 5. So 3 out of 5 would imply that we want 6 out of 10 would be 60%. So let brick, so the brick left of ladder equal number of rings times 60%. 0.60, because we want 60%, and that's going to give us the percentage of where the brick on the left hand side is going to appear. And then we're going to subtract 20. Set brick left of ladder X equal ladder X minus 20. Okay. So then we want to add a platform. So we add our platform. X is going to be number of, oh, this is going to be the Y. Call this Y. And then X. And it's going to be brick photo. See what this does. Up there. Let's get rid of these brick photos. Know what we're doing. Yeah, so I put it way up there. I don't know if there's a way that I can use. Oh, I know what I did. So it's times, and inside of parentheses, it's gonna follow order of operations. So we have a total of 5 rings. Each of them is 20 pixels. Oh, there we go. Now the problem is 5 number of rings, 5 times 20. Wait, 5 times 20. So I had this wrong. 5 times 20 times 0.6. That do. That puts it way up there. And that is because I'll have this backwards. This should be X. This should be Y. Oh no, I have it right. So we have number of rings times 20, because that's 100. It shouldn't matter because we're doing the same operation. The same operation is going to be left or right. That's Y. So Y should be I wonder if there's a way that you can reference the actual object itself. So that way I can get, I mean, I'm going to put this in manually, but there should be a way to get this number dynamically. Because if I was just to put 0 here, it's gonna put it way at the top. Oh, that's what I'm doing. What I'm doing wrong. Yes, we have to use canvas height. Canvas height minus 20. And the number of rings. Maybe this should work. Let me call it. Not that it's been complaining, but what is canvas height? This canvas height minus. What does that do? Why is canvas height so high? Because this should be put at the bottom. Where's the bottom? The very bottom platform, which is italic. Where's plus E? Platform create canvas height minus. Then here we can get rid of 8. Minus. Okay. Then canvas height minus 40. So that's going to put it at the very bottom. Then we have to take the amount. We want to put it minus number of rings times 20 times 0.6. Yep, that's what I was doing wrong. Do you see the math? I hope you understand the math. So the math is basically, so you got to remember, the canvas height is going to give you what the top to bottom is. And so initially, the first part of our game, that little gray bar at the bottom, is at, where's metallic at? Right here. It's at canvas height minus 20. And remember, the little gray pixel is 20 by 20. So we have 20 from the bottom, which the reality is we can parameterize it because you can already see that we're using canvas height generate to figure out where more or less we are putting that bar. And also in our loop, you gotta add +1 here. Oh, that's not on this one right. +1. I'll tell you why I added. Because whenever you're looping through something, the number of loops, you notice that it divided the total amount of the canvas length, but it doesn't account for the first iteration. So I'm adding 1 additional to the number across, so that way it can create my base all the way across the bottom. Another thing I want to do is this bottom platform. I'm gonna just make it canvas height and take off this 20. Then that puts it at the way bottom, which is where I wanted it. And then instead of canvas height minus 40, we here. And then where's my other ladder? Canvas right here. This one, 20. So there we go. My ladder is now at the right place. Now the next thing I need to do is I need to create my brick all right across from the other one. From the one that is currently existing. So now we add this dot platforms dot create brick. We're gonna put it back in the same because brick ladder X, brick ladder Y, and we're gonna add 20 to this, and then we're gonna add brick photo. Let's go back to the game. Oops. It's actually supposed to be +20 here. Get rid of the maybe. You see already I'm building my game. The next thing is copy this down. Brick left of ladder X. And right here is gonna be 40. Gonna get rid of. It should put this brick right above the other one. No. Oh no, we have to this plus 40. Add of it. Brick left of ladder Y. 40. Oh, minus. Okay, so if we look at our level, this is what we're building. More or less what I'm building as far as the game. Now, this part I actually could iterate a few times to go across from there. So here is where this began. There has to be a way that we can dynamically add. The y is going to stay the same as the x that we're going to change. So let's do this. Let's add another for loop right here. And close that loop. Number of bricks. How many did we do? 1, 4, 5. So let's say 6. Let of right 6. And so number of bricks to right 6. 1. Or let's just say 6. Create brick this, and then the only thing that's changing is the x. So let brick of ladder x equal plus 40. Okay. Then we're gonna put this here. And after every iteration, I'm gonna add 20. That did not do it. Bricks to right. Brick ladder of x. So this should already be. I mean, it's there, but it's not created right. Y should be the same, and then photo. If I comment this. Okay. Oh, this is what I messed up. There we go. I wasn't adding my original value to make them go to the right. You can see what my game is looking like. And now we can add our our ladder going up. There's obviously tweaks that we can do to it, but this is just me learning. This is me completely new to this. Full disclaimer, I'm learning game development by building a childhood game that I played when I was a kid that I want to basically reinvent, recreate this. The next thing is to create the ladder going up. And the ladder going up with this. And I'm going to create another ladder group. I wonder if we, so this one, we obviously would have to call it ladders 2. We're creating another ladder. Ladder X going to be, we're doing 20 pixel. So this is 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times 20. So 7, 8, 9. So that'd be 180. So it would be 180. That do. Broke the game. Ladder X. Okay, where's ladder X? Oh, ladder. This ladder. Ladder 2. Number of rings has already been. Number of rings. Oh, right here. Number of rings for ladder 2. Whoa. Need to change Y. Oh, minus not 20, but how many did we do? 100 minus 100. Yep. There's our ladder. And you can already see how tedious this is. Let me see if we can get AI to help us refactor this to be a little bit more dynamic. Maybe we need to consider a more dynamic approach because it's going to be kind of painful to have to go through this entire level building it like we are right now. It's not ideal, right? Like we want to be able to be a little bit more productive. We want to be game developers. I don't want to be a game developer, but many of you might. I'm just learning for fun. That if you want to be a game developer, you want to be a good game developer, and you want to be fast. You want to be slow to development. So I'm gonna ask AI to help me refactor this. Give me some tips as to how I can go about. This is the initial setup for my game level 1. And you help me refactor to make it to where I can build this faster. Perhaps I can find a way to connect each other. What are your so here's the code. Let's give it an image of what we have so far. Okay, so we added the code. Here's the image. I've added image what I have so far, but I ultimately want let's look at the image here to achieve. I still have my clipboard. I might still be in. Nope, not in my. Okay, so disregard emeralds for now. Emeralds now. Make sure we understand. Emeralds. Our own. Ask any clarifying question. And I always do that, like I said earlier, because I want to make sure that it understands what I'm trying to achieve, and it understands that I might miss something. So I would like to get an understanding of what I might be missing, and it can give me some clarification. Should platforms always connect to ladders, tops, and bottoms? The one would be yes. You wanted to find levels as data JSON array separate from code. That actually would work. Like we could definitely define levels through data. You know? We could definitely define that through data. I don't know. Thinking out loud here. Yeah, let's do that. So, yes. Are platform widths always uniform or variable? Platform width or I'm trying to understand what it means by I'm assuming uniform means that everything's gonna be the same. Platform width should be variable. Assuming you mean dynamic, not static. By variable. Not at every level. I don't know if that's what it by that. Is that what you mean by variable? I'm just trying to understand what it means by that question. When I'm a military background, I was in the army before, so to me uniform means everything looks the same. And when we would go to the motor pool and we would park the cars, the vehicles, everything had to be uniform. Everything had to be exactly the same. So yes, so that's what it meant. So variable means different widths. Uniform would mean width every time. Oh, I know what you mean. So it's talking about the width of it. Uh, no, the width should be the same every time. Um, so I don't know why YouTube keeps not receiving like that. I don't know what it means by it's not receiving. No. Sorry, YouTube. If you can't see me, I would recommend using Twitch or Kick. All right, so let's try it this way. Um, I don't know. No, width is always going to be the same. Width being that. No, width is correct. Width is how long we want the platform to. So, um, so level 1 config this dot build level level 1 build level equals level 1.js. So let's copy this. So it's saying copy this function. Where's my code? Let's create a new level because I don't want to mess up what I currently have. So here on scenes, I want to add a new file and let's call it dynamic level 1. Oops, rename it. It needs to have .js at the end. All right, so we're gonna take the same level 1, copy it into here, and we're gonna copy this functionality. We're gonna have the build level functionality. Gonna import this. Let's get rid of everything and create. It's this whole thing. Get rid of everything. we leave the stuff in the preload. And then create. Gonna add this function, and we're gonna have methods. Remember, methods are verbs. They're things that things get done with. Then gonna bring in level config. Let's see. So right now this is saying that we're gonna level 1 config is in the same area. So we're gonna create a new file here. We're gonna call it level 1 config or level data.js. Okay. And then we're gonna import this on dynamic level. Gonna import it at the very top. One. And in the JS, I'm gonna call this dynamic level 1. Comment it out. Port from dot dynamic level. Okay, that's not doing anything. What am I missing? So we set up dynamic level 1, level 1 config. Wait, do we import? Where does our import go? We're importing something, does that go? I would assume they go outside the class, not inside the class. Let's go look at the console. What the error is there. Level 1 data.js script, the server responded with MIME text HTML. So there's an issue with this level 1 config. Did I mess up the name here? Level. Oh, I messed up. Level data. Main.js. Oh, that's why it's missing. Level 1. Still didn't load anything. Do I have any dynamic level 1? Binary properties of undefined dynamic level JS 8. This dot platforms. Let's see what I did wrong there. So this dot platforms, we need to create the platforms. And so let's go back to level 1. And we need to create the platform. This dot platforms, the create method. So level this one under the create. Okay, we created something, but not at all what we wanted. Oh, the reason being is because it did create platforms, didn't create ladder. Yeah, because if you notice in the code editor under dynamic level, we have a platforms, and then we have create platform, create ladder. We don't have ladders. We need to create ladders. I bet you anything ladders. Yep, ladders. There's no ladders. So where did I create ladders on the original? Ladders. It's dot ladders. So let's go back to dynamic level. We're gonna create a ladder object or prop. Okay. Well, I mean, it doesn't. Obviously, this is not at all what I was looking for it to do. But it's getting somewhere. So basically, you can create the level data this way. Ladders up, ladder down. I don't know what it means by connected. Let's get rid of this lines. And get rid of this error. We have platforms, but it's still creating ladders. Well, I'm gonna have to cut it out, cut it there. um, Today, I learned a little bit about game development. This is very, very basic. Obviously, there's some studying I have to do. This is literally me just coming in here and fiddling with things. I've never really built anything like this before. Um, so yeah, like I need to learn how to build these things. What I find interesting is, the level of dynamics behind it is pretty cool. Obviously, I need to um think of all the different JSON objects to getting this level build in a more dynamic fashion. But this is a great start. I didn't get to add a character or anything like that because really the reality is right now I'm making sure that all the physics are there, the pieces of the levels are there, and then later on I can add the dynamics of having an actual character, the um, the points and all of that. But coming from my background, which is mostly working in enterprise solutions, you can see that as long as you have a generic understanding of code, you can build a lot of things. You can work on other things. And it really is a lot of fun to be able to, to build things like this. And I hope this encourages you to try other development methodologies. I'll try to probably stream a little bit longer tomorrow. I'm gonna just go and watch a few videos. Whenever I watch videos, just so that you understand, I just learn it. I just go and watch videos to get the basics of the um, concepts on how to develop. that's the most important thing that you want to learn when you're becoming a developer, is understanding the concept, understanding the generics of a language, understanding um, the dynamics, and overall just understanding math at a very basic. Um, so that being said, I appreciate you joining me on this Friday afternoon, or based on your time zone, whatever time you are on. Thank you for joining me, and I'll tomorrow. If